It's been nearly 2 decades, and somehow the iPod Classic still feels relevant. Not because it's super practical, I mean, it's slow and it's stuck in its own format as a dedicated music player, but because it's a complete product. The first iPod Classic came out in 2001, more than 20 years ago. It had mechanical scroll wheel, firewire cable, 5 GB of storage, enough for 1,000 songs if you believe the slogan of the advertisement. By the time the 6th generation arrived, the scroll wheel had gone touch sensitive, the screen was colored, and the hard drive could hold entire music libraries. With no wireless capabilities and obviously no streaming, you only needed trusty earbuds to enjoy your music collection and a computer to put your music onto the iPod. And while its smaller siblings, the Shuffle, Nano, Touch, are almost but forgotten, the iPod Classic, because of its icon status and also in many aspects because of amazing repairability and practicality, lives on. You can open it and replace things or break them, but always fix it again. And just like with all these things, using an iPod is a very satisfying experience since it just has a single purpose: to listen to music. That's why there's still a whole alive community around these devices, and why new modifications and expansions keep showing up. Sometimes with the purpose to bring an iPod Classic close enough to modern expectations. And today we are going to talk about one of them, the Classic Connect 2 by Moonlit Market. Hello guys! More than a year ago, I made a video about turning an old iPod Classic into a modern Bluetooth plus USB-C device using a kit from Moonlit Market called Classic Connect. That video completely took off. As of now, it's still my most popular video, over 450,000 views, tons of comments, a lot of frustration with one topic in particular, and if you watch this video, you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the glue, of course. But tech evolves, and so does Classic Connect. Today we're checking out the Classic Connect 2, the brand new version that builds on the original mod kit with some interesting new tricks. This one has a built-in haptic feedback, so your iPod will vibrate again. It now has a wireless charging support. It has a new backplate color options, translucent white, purple, and black, and I here have a translucent one. It has a redesigned back that now includes wireless charging and also a smaller battery, unfortunately, although it can support up to 2000 milliampere if you can swap it yourself. It does not include storage as of now. You have to get it separately yourself. Just to clarify, the Bluetooth module doesn't change, so if you had issues pairing with the iPods Pro 2 in the past, reportedly on Reddit posts that's still the case there, but everything else sort of got a refresh and the price is now a bit lower too. Moonlit Market sent me the Classic Connect for a review. This is not a sponsored video, but they did provide the kit and they will see this review at the moment where everybody else will see it once I upload it online. And here's a little twist. Right now, the iPod prices grew up so much more than they were 1 or 2 years ago. Instead of costing 50 euros or something like this, the iPods go for 100 or 150 euros, which is crazy. Since I don't have an iPod that I'm willing to sacrifice because you need to cut off one of the metal hinges on the top and you will have to glue it in as well, I'll be tearing apart my already modded iPod from the first video and reusing it for this build. And that means we are diving right back into the infamous glue situation. So let's see if version 2 will treat us better. So first, let's talk about how Classic Connect arrives towards you and whether its packaging improved on the first iteration. First of all, the Classic Connect 2 comes in a pretty Spartan package. You get a short instruction sheet in the box, 2 stickers, and the actual Classic Connect board. That's it. There is no storage model option this time, and the battery that Classic Connect 2 comes with is soldered in. That's because of the wireless charging module. So even though the website says you could fit a 2000 milliampere battery like the one that came with Classic Connect 1, you'd actually have to rip out the included one, and if you still want to keep the wireless charging option in, you'd also need to resolder the new battery in. In fact, if you look closely at the ribbon contacts on the board in CC2, you'll notice that there is still an A contact for a battery ribbon, just like on the board in CC1, but it's not used anymore because the battery that CC2 comes with is soldered to the board along with the wireless charging pad. But I'm jumping ahead a bit. Let's talk about the disassembly of the previous version, the CC1, and the glue situation, and then talk about how the CC2 is assembled. If you haven't seen my previous video, to assemble the Classic Connect 1, you had to cut off the metal pin on the front plate of your iPod, and in the end, glue the front plate into the supplied Classic Connect back. This part stirred some emotions in the comments from my previous video that you can probably see on the screen. However, if you're worried about taking it apart after gluing, my experience with taking apart my previous iPod, the one I modded in the first video, was surprisingly easy. At first I thought I'd have to heat up the glue, but actually, since the backplate is plastic and the iPod front plate is metal, the plastic flexes. And once I got a grip on the front plate, I could just tear it off from the glue. To be honest, at this point I briefly thought about my lovely 2000 milliampere battery and whether it was worth trying to fit it into the Classic Connect 2 instead of the 500 milliampere one that comes pre-soldered. But I realized that's just too much work for the project. Maybe I'll do it next time. For now, I thought the 500 milliampere will do. Now, there are no written instructions on the Moonlit Market website, and they direct you to a YouTube channel. Hey guys, Editing Dmitry here. I just realized while editing this video that the link that Classic Connect has on their website leads nowhere. The YouTube channel that was there with the instructions from the community, it's no longer available. Therefore, I have no video to reference here in the video that I'm making. I will include my own footage of the assembly. However, I didn't shoot it in very great detail. So please, if you're referencing it to assemble your own Classic Connect 2 iPod, please be careful and just make sure that all the ribbons are correct side in. Don't puncture your batteries, and in general, check what you're doing. I will still put my commentary after each phase that I had remarks about, but I just wanted to put it in here because I filmed the whole video thinking that there was a video I can reference, and now I just need to put my own footage in. Okay, now let's back to the video. First, you need to take out the audio interface ribbon and remember its orientation. So you need to put it back in the same way that I'm taking it out and put to the side in this segment. Next section is you need to take out this board that connects the wireless charging pad and the wires that go to the board that eventually gets soldered to the battery behind the scenes. And well, it has the sticky pad attached to it, so you take out the pad and you stick the board to the back of the backplate. You can either stick it to the lower left side or under the battery, depending on what storage option you have. If you have, like me, an M cord with let's say the thin 2 micro SD card option, then it's under the battery. Otherwise, it's in the lower left corner if you have something like CF Flash. After that, using a tweezers or something else, you tuck in the wires very carefully so that it goes on the side of the battery on the bottom and to the left, so not over the battery or under it. First thing that bothered me a little bit is when you double tape the wireless charging PCB, You need to do it either underneath the battery or tuck it into the corner of the iPod, depending on your storage configuration. Then you need to bend the soldered wires and stick it sort of under the PCB in between the PCB and the battery, so that, well, those wires fit snugly along the battery. And I'm putting this video right now on the screen so you can see. And this part irked me a little bit. It reminded me of the first CC1 install, where you had to cut the battery's wrapper and fold the ribbon in a specific way. I get that it's a conversion kit and, well, a mod, but still this step feels really error prone, because I think you can easily destroy those very tiny wires, and I feel it's unnecessarily fragile. In my opinion, I think either you could offer a version with a PCB pre-installed so that you don't need to bend those wires, although I understand that would be less flexible to accommodate for the different storage options, but maybe make the wires longer or make them flexible so that the user doesn't need to fight with them. The next step includes covering the board of the wireless charging pad with a clear plastic tape so that the board is shielded from touching anything else within the backplate. The audio ribbon is already attached on this segment. Note that it's attached wrong. It actually needs to be mirrored, but after you attach it, you are strongly suggested to tape it to the battery so that it doesn't move from this place. So one more time, the ribbon, as you see it right now, it's wrong. It should actually be flipped. So rewind to the previous section and see the orientation, the correct orientation there. Next thing, you have to tape the charging ribbon that you put in the B port to the battery. I assume this is because the ribbon and the connector don't really hold well by themselves. I don't think they hold as secure as the default cables that the normal iPod comes in. Those just stuck in right without even closing the latch. Again, not a big deal. Just wanted to point it out again. Next stage includes connecting the audio ribbon to the main board of the iPod and closing it up. And obviously, when you're closing it, make sure to carefully connect the battery ribbon into the battery port. So close it from one side, from right to left, and slowly put in the battery ribbon in. Close the latch there so that it's secure, and only then close the iPod. And finally, the instructions tell you to glue the iPod before turning it on, and I definitely recommend against this. Myself, I connected the audio and battery ribbons, closed up the iPod real quick to make sure everything was working, and at this point, honestly, you can just leave the iPod if you don't want to glue it and just put one of those rubber snug cases to hold the iPod together. In my case, the iPod took a little while to charge after this step because I wanted to test whether everything worked. So to charge it, I had both USB-C and the 30-pin cable plugged in at the same time. And then I saw the little Bluetooth LED light up, and then I realized that everything is fine and it will work. Sure enough, after that, the iPod eventually woke up and appeared on my MacBook once I connected it. So it worked. So seemed like everything worked. I didn't glue it before that. I still tested the features. First of all, tested whether the haptic feedback worked. It does. It's subtle, but a really nice touch. And I honestly missed it on the Classic Connect 1 compared to the normal iPod Classic. After that, I tested the Bluetooth. It connected effortlessly to my Sony wireless headphones. And finally, I tried wired headphones. And yep, I think they work just fine too. Now that I confirmed that everything worked, it was time for the final step, and I had to glue it together. The gluing process, although probably it will get a lot of criticism again, is actually a pretty straightforward one, and the video instructions cover it in good detail. There is one part that confused me in the video instructions. They recommend that after you click the iPod together, you wrap it in cloth and use rubber bands to hold it while the glue sets. Personally, I didn't trust that it will apply enough pressure to seal the front plate properly, so I just went with the old proven method. I put a Magnum Contact Sheets book right on top of it and let it sit for 24 hours. Now, after 24 hours, the glue set in and I could use this iPod. If you've seen my Classic Connect 1 review, you're familiar with my opinion on functionality there, but for those who didn't, let's do a recap. This iPod works as, let's say, a dumb Bluetooth device. There is no software integration of the Bluetooth model. You operate with the Bluetooth button, this one on your CC unit to activate it. Make it search for the devices, and if your pairing device is also in pairing mode, they will connect. It doesn't connect well to some devices, for example, to AirPods 2. Some users reported difficulties connecting to them, or to a smarter devices like a car Bluetooth unit that ask for a passcode to input on each Bluetooth device. So bear that in mind, this will not work. In my case, I connected to my Sony Bluetooth headphones without any problems, and I mainly use it in my living room for my Bluetooth audio engine speakers. I have a silly habit of ripping out my vinyl records on my turntable, and it's nice to have the same record in the digital form that I can just put on a speaker while sitting on the couch or during the party, not through my phone, but, well, just through a dedicated Bluetooth device, kind of like a jukebox. The audio quality is great as always. I read online that some people complained about the Bluetooth volume. Personally, I didn't hear any difference. It worked with majority of my devices, all the dumb Bluetooth headphones and audio devices that I have. And I know that the AirPods 2, as I said, they don't work well, but I don't have them to try out. So you're out of luck if you're interested whether CC2 works with it. The Bluetooth module is the same as in Classic Connect 1, I think. So it supports Bluetooth 5.2, 24-bit 96 kilohertz sampling, aptX HD, aptX AD, basically all the modern Bluetooth standards for highest quality. And the way how the PCB is designed is that the Bluetooth module transmits the same signal that the iPod DAC supplies to the headphones. And in practice, I doubt that you will hear any difference in sound quality between the headphones and the Bluetooth experience. The user experience is also great. I really like that now it includes the haptic feedback module that makes it much more familiar iPod experience with clicks. It's one of those small upgrades that just makes the device more fun to use. And it honestly reminds me a bit more of using the normal classic iPod device. I also love the translucent backplate. It looks fantastic. CC2 comes in other colors, but this one reminds me of those late 90s, early 2000 translucent gaming consoles. You can see the internals, and it gives the Classic Connect 2 its own unique identity, I would say. To take it to the next step, I would prefer having a translucent front plate as well, since my own front plate is black, as you can see. And I think this would pair perfectly with the translucent atomic front options from Elite Obsolete Electronics. I know that those are very popular among people, and I think they would fit great with the Classic Connect 2 translucent. I know that a lot of people miss the metal casing. So if you compare it to the normal iPod Classic and this, then it clearly looks different. But the Bluetooth module will interfere with the metal and it would not work as well. So I understand the choice of the plastic. And in case of this particular iPod, the CC2, it will interfere with a new option that you can have on Classic Connect 2 compared to Classic Connect 1, and this is the wireless charging. So there is a wireless charging plate. It's connected to the battery via direct solder. That's why the A port on the PCB is not used compared to the CC1. It's a great feature if you're into wireless charging. I, however, don't really use it. Cables don't generally bother me that much, and this modification already has the normal 30-pin connector here and also a USB-C one at the top. The way how wireless charging works on this iPod is also a little bit of a sneaky one. It works the same as a USB-C one unless USB-C is soldered. It will not show you any change in the charging pictogram in the user interface, but once the battery will charge, the pictogram will just update by itself and will become full. Personally, I don't think that the Classic Connect 2 needed wireless charging module. I understand that it makes it even more wireless since the first version had a Bluetooth wireless audio, so it makes sense that the next wireless option to make the iPod more modern would be wireless charging. However, I don't think it is very justifiable to me. As I said, there are two options to charge it already via the cables, and the fact that now there is a wireless charging module that is soldered to the battery makes it harder for people to replace the said battery and put a bigger one, just like I did with my original CC1 unit, where I could put a 2000 milliampere unit battery. Okay, well, let's talk about things I don't like about it. Let's start with the one that I just mentioned. The battery is soldered in, both to the board and to the wireless charging pad. That means if you ever want to replace it or swap it for the bigger one, like the alleged 2000 milliampere unit that came with my original Classic Connect 1, you'll have to desolder everything in case if you still want everything to work. If you don't want wireless charging to work, you can just rip it off, but then you lose the functionality. I feel that this is a big downgrade in usability and flexibility compared to the previous version, where replacing the battery was just part of the normal experience. And regardless if it was a real 2000 milliampere battery, and I point this out because there are several doubts online that those batteries really are 2000 milliampere, but that's maybe out of scope for this video. With it, my Classic Connect 1 unit worked for a very long time. And since now I get a smaller capacity, I think this is 500 milliampere soldered in, I feel I would need to jump through more hoops to get to the CC1 level. Next thing is that I don't really like how the USB-C port is presented. Yes, it's there, but unless you solder 3 wires to the main board, you only can use it for charging, no data transfer, no syncing, so you kind of can't really connect it for the data to your computer, and that's okay. But the frustrating part is that the product page doesn't really make it clear at all. The headline says no soldering required and like 10 minutes to install, and only if you dig through collapsed text specs section on the buy page, you will see a tiny footnote apart from USB-C features. And another way how you can find it is if you read through FAQ. And some people might say like, duh, you need to read through all those pages to actually know what you're buying. That may be the case, but for a normal person, for me, the fact that I see no soldering required with no star behind it on the page when I open the Moonlit Market Classic Connect 2 web page feels to me like I'm being misled if later on I realize that for USB-C functionality, for full USB functionality, I would need to solder it to the main board. That's a pretty important limitation that most buyers just won't see until it's too late, and they would be thinking that it's 10-minute install and no soldering required, and USB-C will be their port here. The same goes for the documentation or lack of it. With CC2, you're sent to the YouTube channel with instructions. So there is this single AI narrated video. It's functional, but it also doesn't really inspire confidence. I think Moonlit Market jumped quite far in quality when it comes to their website and presentation compared to the time when they released Classic Connect 1. It now looks great, fantastic product pictures, a lot of details if you read through. However, the fact that you're directed to a community instructions of a video channel that, well, right now has only one video, makes it feel like a bit lazy on their part. I would imagine that it could be just on their website, and maybe there should be a channel where they can answer questions directly. And finally, then there is a price. At launch, Classic Connect 2 is only slightly cheaper than the Classic Connect 1 that came without the battery, and now you do get a smaller battery, but still no storage options. And if you want to replace a battery, you would need to desolder the wireless pad and resolder it back together and include the new battery. And the original Classic Connect 1 that I got was 162 euros, 169 euros, versus right now with 129. And myself, back then, I got this 2000 milliampere battery and a storage solution for the micro SD card. So while the feature list looks longer, I feel that the value of the kit feels lower to me, especially if you already own a Classic Connect 1. Classic Connect 2 doesn't feel like an upgrade worth replacing your build for. It feels more like a lateral move if you're really into wireless charging and really miss the haptic feedback. If Classic Connect 1 still was being sold, I would say just get a Classic Connect 1. It has the same functionality, and because it doesn't have the wireless charging pad, you can install a bigger battery and your iPod will just work for a longer period of time, and it would be easier to mod. However, it's no longer possible. So I would say if you really die for the Bluetooth functionality, or you really want a wireless charging and you don't mind a weaker battery, then absolutely go for it. If you are fine with soldering, then you can change the mod to whatever you want. You can install a bigger battery and be absolutely happy with it. And I think it will be a great product for you if you can stomach the price. However, for me, the Classic Connect 2 doesn't feel like a proper sequel, but as I said, more like a lateral move. Some features added, some lost, and some, I would say, a little bit overpromised on the website. I still think it's a really cool product. I really love to use it. As I said, it's just not the upgrade that I expected when I heard the announcement. So that's it for this video. I'm curious to know your opinion in the comments. Maybe you already have this product, or you had the Classic Connect 1 and you were curious about buying the second one. Share it in the comments with me. I will be very curious, and I'll see you in the next video.